All right, so Rome is a very big empire, at least by chronologically, like to the point where we've discussed. Like right now, Rome is a very, very big empire, and big empires don't just fall in within like a single war or a single day or something. They fall very slowly, like they slowly decay away by many different reasons, like garbage emperors, very bad economy, and etc. But basically, Rome has a lot of reasons for its downfall, and its downfall was not like it wasn't of like it wasn't like demolished. It was more like it eroded away, it decayed.
对，其实罗马帝国的轰塌，它因为它已经是延续千年的大帝国，所以说是一个缓慢的过程，有很多的原因，而且很多种子其实在很早的时候就已经埋下了。从我们再上一节课，然后谈到的这个就是五贤帝的时期，其实就开始了。
The downfall of Rome had already began from the five good emperors we discussed that the class before last. The five good emperors, even though they were good, it was also like where Rome sort of peaked out. That was the highest point in Roman Empire. And from that point on, it wasn't going to get much better. It was only going to go down. The five good emperors were also called the adoptive emperors because none of them were their like biological sons, so they were actually adopted by the previous emperor. So that was also one of their nicknames. In this picture is the sort of like the empirical side clashing with the Pope and like the religious side.
是的，其实，在马可·奥勒留的时代，然后就像北昆说的，他们是实行一种就是养子的一个制度，就是前一个皇帝，然后他看好谁来继承他后来的皇位，他可以来培养他，然后来收养他，然后成为皇帝。但是我们在五贤帝当中的最后一位马可·奥勒留的时代，我们刚才说到，其实他的时代呢。因为全球气候变化的原因，他那个时代也是一个瘟疫横行，然后就是饥荒，还有旱灾，然后频发的一个年代。他呢，说他是好皇帝，他确实他哲学家，然后热爱他的国家，然后保卫疆土。但是他做了一件最错的事情，那是什么呢？把他的那个皇位传给了他自己的儿子，而不是选择一个。更贤良的人，当然这可能跟他实在是疲于奔命，然后在维持整个帝国，然后没有精神，然后来选择一个好的继承人，可能也有关系。但是无论如何，他做的这件事情给罗马帝国带来了灾难性的后果。
Marcus Aurelius, the last of the five good emperors, chose to have his son inherit his throne instead of like adopt another child like his predecessors did. And that might have been what the reason why they were called the five good emperors, because they chose somebody that was actually fit to be emperor instead of their own child who they're like not very sure if they should actually be good enough. Marcus Aurelius chose his own child, and his child was clearly unfit to be emperor. The five good emperors, or the adoptive emperors, the adoption sort of thing might have actually been a benefit to Rome because choosing somebody that's actually good at being emperor rather than your own son might have been a benefit rather than breaking tradition, as some Romans might have said. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the five good emperors because we're not talking about Rome's peak. We're talking about Rome's fall. So the first one of our sort of tyrants is Commodus. He has a very long name, which I shall not be saying, but everybody calls him Commodus, the gladiator tyrant. And if you see here on the picture, on the statue, I mean, on like the statue, okay, so he is resembling a very mythological character. Do you guys know who he is trying to be?
Hercules?
Yes, that is correct. So Commodus, he had like this belief that he was the son of the gods. He was a reincarnation of Hercules. So he went around wearing beast pelts, like in this statue, and he sort of like had that really mindset that he was the son of God and he was the reincarnation of Hercules. He also went around and had a lot of his statues in which he was Hercules doing all the Hercules stuff built around Rome. He also indulged in many other things, like he also fought with gladiators. And you may think that him going down to fight would be like an honor, and some Romans would consider him to be a good king, but that was not the case because many Romans felt that he was lowering his
class,
his level down to like the deepest and lowest class, because the gladiators are usually slaves and prisoners of war. So they felt that Commodus was he wasn't like respecting his throne. He was dragging his own class and status down to like the lowest of the lowest. However, he did feel it was very fun because, first of all, he loved fighting and sort of cosplaying as the Hercules character. And also none of the gladiators would dare to defeat him, because if they did, defeating an emperor would probably lead to death trial.
They'll die anyway.
所以说他做这样的事情会有什么后果呢？大家都这么讨厌他，那后来大家猜一猜他会有什么后果
？Yeah, guys, what do you think happened to him? Any?
Did they like test if his lion fur was actually impenetrable by stabbing him to death?
Well, he sort of got overthrew, I guess. He was pretty safe in the gladiator arena because nobody dared to like actually put him in danger. He would probably if he wanted to go against a lion, they would probably beat the lion, make it really weak before letting it out and fight him. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
对他这样就是任性，然后又残暴的话，然后就导致大家都对他很不满，特别是元老院的人，然后他们就勾结了他的禁卫军的长官，也就是禁卫军就是专门来保护皇帝安全的人，但是现在保护皇帝安全的人跟元老院勾结起来，然后把他暗杀了。暗杀他的不仅有他的禁卫军的这个长官，还有他的女朋友。然后就是一起把他暗杀了，然后元老院非常的恨他，就拿了一个 hook， 然后勾住他的尸体，然后把他扔到台伯河里头去了。这个被誉为有史以来最坏的罗马皇帝的家伙，就这样得到了可耻的下场。
He was overthrew by his own Senate and his own Praetorian Guard, which is basically like the royal guard, like his personal guards. The Senate was very angry with him. They didn't like him that much. And so they had his royal guards, his Praetorian guards, and his concubines, and they killed him. And then the Senate hated him so much that they attached hooks onto his body, hooked him, and then dragged him and threw him into the river Tiber. So that was the end of Commodus, but it's not like things get that better after him.
对，然后他死了之后，元老院自己推举出了一个皇帝，但是这个皇帝只做了3个月，然后相当于只做了1个 quarter 吧，就被暗杀了。接下来呢，元老院就开始，你们猜猜他们干了什么
？Yeah, they had another emperor, but that emperor was quickly killed. And what do you guys guess they did with the throne after that?
They took it down?
Oh, not exactly.
Remy?
They killed everyone and just like left the people who was like they know they could trust.
Well, that would have been a massacre.
So scared.
But
no,
the Senate did not exactly have the power to do such things. However, we were talking about what they did with the throne. So because right now the position of the emperor is empty, so
他们把它拿来拍卖了。
they auctioned it off. So yep, and now here's the question. Do you think money can actually buy the throne in that auction? They auctioned the throne of the empire. They were selling like the place of an emperor.
Yeah, money, I don't think money can actually really buy the throne, because like if you're like very dumb and then like you have a lot of money, then like you would probably be killed like in like a few days after you have the throne.
Yep, that was exactly happened, but instead of 2 days, it was 2 months, 66 days. So that's a little over 2 months, but just like a summer break, he had the person who purchased the throne was emperor for around like 2 months. His name was Titus Julianus.
甚至我们都不用记住他的名字。
he was soon killed. It was only a 2-month thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Summer emperor.
yeah. So he basically took a summer break as emperor and then died. Because money cannot buy the throne, because if it was that simple, then there wouldn't be so much killing. And but Julianus obviously thought that he could, but that's why he got killed.
所以接下来的一个皇帝，他不是靠钱上来的，他是靠阿米上来的。他是谁呢？
Next is Septimus Severus. He is this guy. And if you look at his skin, he is obviously not a person from Rome. He is the first non-Roman, Roman speaking person. He is from Carthage. Do you guys remember Carthage?
You guys remember?
Yeah.
Carthage from the Punic Wars. So Carthage is like northern Africa, and that's where he is from, but he does not speak any Indo-European languages. He was from Carthage, and that was like one of the first emperors that did not speak those languages.
从第一个皇帝就是屋大维，
From Octavius or Augustus being emperor all the way to Severus was about 220 years. And from the first president of the United States, George Washington, almost forgot there, to the now African ethnicity Barack Obama, President Obama, it's also about 220 years. And that just really shows us how long it takes to break the ethnic barrier in places of leadership, in positions of leadership. So Septimus Severus was a great army leader, and that was what he used to get the throne. We've seen many like ways to obtain the throne, like money in the previous instance, leadership of many people like Octavian, who had his trustworthy General Agrippa, but the most popular way was probably with military force, with armies. Like those who controlled armies usually were granted very high positions of power.
是的，因为他是靠军队上来的，所以说他也特别在乎军队的这些地位。然后当然他肯定做了很多事情，比如说提高军人的待遇，然后消除军队内的歧视，然后只要你是不管你是什么肤色的人，从哪儿来的人，只要你有能力就能够当上高官。但是他把军队的地位提得太高了，他自己也过分的依赖于军队了，所以导致后来会出现我们稍晚会讲的一个叫做军人皇帝时代。
However, Severus was, we can say, a bit too sort of too involved, too addicted to the armies. He increased the strength of the armies so much that we would have so it was sort of like a condition, like an illness, a sickness to Rome. Like Rome goes up for a checkup, and it's like you have Baric emperors. And Baric emperors, we will talk about them later. And that was a very great crisis during Rome, and that was probably one of many reasons to Rome's downfall. Of course, Septimus Severus also has his son, Caracalla.
But why this song is no face?
So wait, first we will this is Julia Domna, Septimus Severus, Caracalla, and Geta, whose faces has been erased. And that was because Caracalla, the next emperor, Septimus originally wanted them to rule together, but Caracalla didn't want that, so he erased, or at least he tried to erase Geta from the face of history, from all history books, from all statues and all such. And how do we still know that he exists? Because Caracalla failed. He, of course, could not erase everything about him. He probably missed a spot or two. And he failed in erasing his brother from history, and that is why we still know about him today. So Caracalla also had built this giant thermite. Do you guys want to guess on how many square meters large this thermite is? Thermite is also like a bath, by the way.
10,000?
10,000? No, it's bigger.
I'm confused.
Confused on what?
It's never mind.
Okay. This thermite, this bathhouse of Caracalla, is 30,000 square meters, right?
16，它的整个的其实是它的整个地方，因为它像一个像是一个很大的一个地方，它就不只有洗澡的地方，还有什么图书馆啊什么的。那个是16万平方米，16万。Yeah， 但是它洗澡的地方是3万平方米。
Yeah, the whole thing is like 160,000 square meters. But the thermite part, like the bathing house, is only 30,000. Which I did not do, I don't know how much exactly 160,000 square meters is, but 30,000 square meters is roughly 7.5 acres, which is about 7.5 football fields. And that's only a part of it, not even half, probably not even a quarter of the whole place. So imagine how big that was.
它那个地方有点我现在想起来应该怎么说了，叫休闲娱乐中心，叫一个 mall， 它里头有健身房，就是有 gym， 有那个还有图书馆，然后 library， 还有反正还有很多休闲娱乐的地方。然后它里面就是拼了很多的，它里头的那些浴室啊。它有冷水浴、温水浴，还可以在里头蒸汽，然后反正就是特别特别的全，比我们现在的浴场，就是现在的这种浴室啊什么的也是不差的。就是所以说，为什么会有一个罗马浴场这个专门的动画来说这个事情呢？因为实在是太人类洗澡史上的一座丰碑。安怡，
那是不是？花了很久来搭呀。
Of course.
Yep. This whole thing was more like a mall. It included libraries, malls, and a lot more. So we can't just call it thermite.
可以看看这是它的复原，它的大概是就是把它复原了，让大家看一看它当年究竟是什么样的。
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna go back a bit. We talked about this like way like a few months, like probably like half a year before. Many of you don't remember, but look at the pillars. They're Corinthian pillars, which at the time, back when we introduced the whole idea of pillars, we were still in Greek history. So we talked about like the other two pillars, but the Corinthian pillars were mostly shown in Roman history, where they actually had more decorations. All right. All right, so next is an emperor called Heliogabalus.
是因为为什么我们会讲这个人呢？是因为在那个卡拉卡拉之后，他也是被暗杀了，因为他也是一个太好的皇帝。动手的还是谁？能大家猜一猜
？Yep, can you guys? He was also assassinated, just like the emperors before him. So, do you guys want to guess who was the culprit? And you?
The Senate.
是被禁卫军暗杀了，依然是被禁卫军。
It was still, well, the Senate before was more like the behind the scenes people, but the people who did it was the Praetorian Guards, basically his like personal guards.
对，
that was a very big it was like a trend back in that day. Like a lot of emperors were getting killed like that.
对，这回这个杀掉了卡拉卡拉的这个禁卫军，他就是自己假装自己很悲痛，然后但是实际上自己就去当了皇帝。但是没多久，他也被就是他也死掉了。然后那个后来还有卡拉卡拉的2个亲戚也先后当了皇帝，也很快去世了。所以说，接下来就进入了我们说的这个军人皇帝的时期。然后50年的这个时间，罗马迎来了70位皇帝。就是非常非常的一个混乱，无论是稍微好一点的皇帝，或者是非常糟糕的皇帝，他们几乎都是死于他杀或者是自杀，几乎没有皇帝是好好的活到最后的。这个皇帝被杀害，就是这个军人皇帝时代最大的一个特点。
So now, after Heliogabalus, who was sort of like a psychopath. In this picture, you may see him, like you may think it's actually a good memory because all the roses and everybody like is bathing in them. But this picture actually has a very dark meaning, as if we zoom, I don't know if we can actually zoom in, but like, if you guys can still see this, their faces show that they're actually kind of panicked. And Heliogabalus and his guests are actually very entertained because there was so much rose petals that they were actually suffocating. And you may think it's a mistake, but if you look at how happy and like how pleased his face is, it probably isn't. Right. So
对，这个人是他们从是可能是在这些糟糕的军人皇帝当中，也算是最糟糕的之一了吧。他也是一个非常任性的皇帝，他就会在宴会厅啊、沙发呀，然后他的那个走廊上面啊，摆上各种各样的撒上各种各样的玫瑰和花，什么百合花之类的，什么紫罗兰啊之类的，然后在里面漫步。这个话就是描述的，在有一次宴会上面，他从那个天花板上面撒了成吨的鲜花，把客人们都淹没了，甚至有人就是因为被这些鲜花淹死。然后皇帝呢，本人他只是在旁边默默的看着，他觉得就是很有兴趣，interesting.
Yep, and after that, we enter into an age of Barbaric emperors. Within 50 years, 70 emperors passed, and we will not be discussing them one by one because they're almost all the same. Because back in the Augustan era, the army was for the empire, for the emperor alone. However, now after Severus had invested so much into the army was nothing more than just a danger to the emperor. And if the emperor gets killed, they just get replaced. And whom's to replace them with? One of the generals. So this started like an age where the generals once they get some achievements, they start thinking that they can be the emperor, so they go kill the emperor, which was a very easy task, seeing how the emperor's own guards wouldn't protect him either, and sometimes would have even killed him.
就是也不知道那时候这些人想当皇帝是什么心态，因为大家可能都觉得自己会是特别的那一个吧，但是他们都不是。那时候老百姓是什么样一种心态，我们也无法了解，可能都比较麻木了，就是谁当都行，赶紧结束吧。Yeah.
So, also a small fun fact about Heliogabalus, he was also the first transgender emperor. However, we won't be talking about that much because we are not here to talk about transgenders. We are here to talk about Rome.
军人皇帝的终结者就是戴克里先。
Diocletian.
对他，我们上节就说过他是正是承蒙这个塞维鲁的这种政策，就无论出身，只要你有才干，就能够提升，就能够当高级军官。他的出身非常的低微，他是一个被释放的奴隶的孩子，然后凭借着军功一步一步的成长起来，最后就是在战乱当中，然后成为了皇帝，终结了这种混乱的军人时代。
Diocletian was the one who put an end to the barracks emperors. And last time we talked about him, but of course, last time we talked about Christianity, and because we talked about Christianity, we weren't able to cover what was happening in Rome. So those are separate things. Diocletian was even though you might think last time we did talk about him persecuting the Christians, but he was actually a very great Roman emperor, but only for the Romans, because he was like the one who put an end to barracks emperors. He sort of like made Rome back into
great.
Yeah, made
Rome great.
So this is Diocletian's,
okay.
This Diocletian's Thermae, which ironically later was turned into a Christian church. His own Thermae was later transformed into the one thing that he hated the most. All right, there was also, Diocletian had also split the empire, because before that, I'm gonna use, so they had a lot of enemies, like above to the east to the south. There was a lot of enemies they had, and one emperor wasn't enough to take care of them all, because if the empire focused over here, the enemies would just come in from that side. And that was when the Gaul Empire and the Pomeri Empire from Egypt and like Gaul, they broke away, they formed their own empires, and then that part, they were actually a help to Rome because they each removed a front that the emperor had to worry about. Of course, they were later taken back into Rome, and then Diocletian used this technique and split Rome in half, having two Augustuses, which is like emperor and co-emperor, Diocletian taking the east and his co-emperor Maximian taking the west. They would also have two junior Caesars, which were like their sort of assistant.
President and vice president,
yes. Like the vice president, like this one and this one. He also split Rome into many pieces, like gave Rome a lot of province pieces, so that generals would not have enough power to overthrow the emperor, and that sort of ended the barracks emperors, because if they did not have enough power, then they alone could not overthrow the government. They also split Rome along geographical fault lines, and that sort of gave people a more sense of like responsibility to where they had to defend. So Diocletian in all was a really great emperor for Rome, but not for Christians, as you may see his wisdom in like adopting something that nearly had Rome, fallen. Rome could have fallen back there if Gaul and Pomerian did not split away. And Diocletian later adopted this as a strategy to go against Rome's many enemies around it.
其实非常有趣的一个巧合是，在东方的中国，当时差不多应该也是汉 Dynasty 的时候，也是实行相似的政策，就是皇帝们会把他的儿子分封到各个地方去，然后他允许这些儿子们在自己的封地上把儿子们又可以分封自己的土地给这些儿子们，然后他就相当于这个皇帝的孙子也得到了。也可以从他们自己的父亲那儿得到土地，然后孙子的孩子又可以从他的父亲那儿得到土地，然后那个地方就越分越小，所以说就不会出现下面的这些诸侯王去威胁到中央的皇帝的这种可能性，就是古代人的这种统治智慧都是很像的。If you can translate or not?
I guess that's not really like something about Rome. It's just like a fun fact.
罗马的话，其实戴克里先进行的这种四地共治政策，它好像是把帝国分为了两边，但是实际上这两个帝国还是这两个部分还是统一在一个统一的罗马帝国的这个下面，就像美国的各个州，然后它依然是统一在美国的这个合众国的这个统治之下一样。
Even though Rome has been split, it's not as bad as it sounds. They were still united under the single name of Rome.
对，然后他们几乎这4个皇帝，就是不管是 president or vice president， 然后他们都是听这个戴克里先的。戴克里先的想法很好，就是大家就是那个正的皇帝那个就是退职之后让这个副的这个皇帝然后来进行接替他的职责，然后这个副皇帝在他成为正皇帝之后，他自己再选择自己的这个 vice 这个 president 之类的。但是实际上呢，这个我们上节课就说到了，这个安排完全是他的权威在的时候是可以维持的，但是一旦他就是他离开了这个职位，然后他也带着他的这个马克西米安，然后退职之后，然后这个局面就完全的崩溃了，然后他们又开始一轮混战。
So Diocletian sort of split Rome up so Rome could be more easily managed. However, that was only under his rule, and once he retired, once he stepped down from the throne, everything sort of fell apart. But not yet. Next, we have Constantine, which we did talk about last time as well. However, last time we only talked about his Christianity effects, and now we will talk about him as a Roman, not as a Christian. So this event is the battle at the Milvian Bridge, in which Constantine, before he had engaged himself in battle with the enemy, he had seen a vision. And this vision has usually been like of a cross, most times, unless it's like some weird spin-off, but usually it's a cross, and there is many different depictions. Many people believe it was angel came and told him. Some people say it appeared on the sun, and there's also many other versions of this. However, what they had in common is that some godly sign appeared and told him to paint the symbol of Christ, which is the cross, onto their shields, onto the soldiers' shields. And so he's not in the business to say no when God literally told him to. So he started to draw, and they won the battle at Milvian Bridge. And of course, we can't really pin this as like a cause and effect. We can't say like God told him that it was because of the cross that he won. We can't really say that because we don't have proof that it was the cross that helped them win. Instead, we can only assume that that is what happened. But that's what Constantine thought, because after this battle, his belief in God as a Christian was heavily reinforced, and that was also one of the causes for him to be a Christian emperor.
我自己这个就是我自己是觉得这些东西，就是很多时候这些当皇帝的人，他们其实可能都是在编故事。 我不确定这个是不是真实的一个东西，因为在康斯坦丁的这个在这个君士坦丁的这个时代，然后他们之前打了很久的仗，大概是30多年吧，然后整个国家就是非常的混乱，而且帝国的力量太弱小了，他也不能够，他其实就是他已经没有办法照顾好他自己的臣民，而且臣民们的心都是散的，他可能是想试图利用就是基督教本来就是一直都是救济穷人，然后帮助那些在战争中受苦受难的人，会给他们一些抚慰的这么一个宗教。他可能自己皇帝本人已经做不到这件事情了，所以说他就会，我不确定是不是他是想利用基督教的这些。想利用基督教，所以说宣称自己看到了这个神迹，然后就是加入基督教，因为他其实在最开始的时候，他颁布了那个米兰赦令，叫做Edict of Milan，
Edict of Milan，
Edict of 米兰，然后他当时宣布的是各个宗教都是平等的，他是直到就是快死亡的时候才受洗为基督徒的。Yeah.
So he was okay, let's summarize that. He was a very devout Christian, like we talked about last time. He established many things like the Edict of Milan, which made Christianity okay, and he sort of added Christianity to Rome, which was a big impact because that sort of kind of, I guess, tore the religion apart because now they have two main religions. Well, Christianity wasn't that big, but its influence was large. Christianity and Roman mythology at the time. So I guess he really had a big religious impact as well as an impact on Rome as an emperor.
但是君士坦丁也是靠个人的就是这种权威维持了这个帝国的这种荣耀吧。但是他去世之后，很快他的3个儿子呢，就是开始他的儿子们就开始就是互相的这种争斗，然后后来呢，他就让他的3个儿子就分别统治了帝国，就分成了3块。但是这种状况也持续不久，他这3兄弟呢就开始互相的，大家都知道，又开始打起仗来了。最后是他的康斯坦丁2世，然后就是从中胜出，成为皇帝。
Yeah. Okay, even though Constantine was a great emperor, that was the only thing that held Rome together because after he had died, his 3 sons immediately split the empire and started fighting. And it wasn't until Constantine II had come on top, and that's when like this sort of fighting sort of like stopped for a tiny bit.
对，然后呢，康斯坦丁2世呢，他是把自己的弟弟叫做尤利安的，他的弟弟尤利安立为了他的那个父弟，就是立为他的 Caesar， 他的凯撒。但是呢，尤利安太优秀了，就是打仗的军功什么的，让他也很嫉妒，然后他又很防范他这个弟弟。到后来2个人他就觉得弟弟会来威胁他的地位，就要去杀掉他的弟弟。但是后来在他们俩正要发生冲突的时候，康斯坦丁2世他因为生病他去世了。但是让人大家猜一猜，后来这个皇位到了谁的手里？
Yeah. So he had a co-emperor, and that co-emperor was like way better than him. So he was originally planning to like they were going to fight, but then he had become sick and
died.
Yeah.
对，但是很意外的是，他还是把就是他要跟他战斗的这个弟弟立为了皇帝，所以说还是这个尤利安皇帝，然后成为了罗马新的君主。然后尤利安皇帝很有才能，然后人品也很好，然后又有军事才能，但是他特别不喜欢基督教，因为基督教那个时候已经开始出现了有一些人就是出现了一些就是贪污受贿，然后利用一些职权然后做坏事儿的一些情况，所以他就觉得 你们不是救济穷苦人的吗？不是号称自己道德很高尚吗？为什么你们这个时候会变成这么坏？然后他就开始镇压基督教。但是呢，就是历史真的有的时候你没法说。尤利安自己在出征的时候被一个箭射到了，然后就死了。他的30多岁就死了，所以说他的时代很短。如果说经常历史就说 if 怎么样，如果他还活着的话，不知道就是罗马帝国会变成什么样，基督教又会变成什么样，都不一定。
His life was brought to an abrupt end when he was shot in the chest by an arrow. All right.
我们可以看看那时候罗马的士兵的一天。
Yeah, and take a small break.
The year is 15 CE, and the Roman Empire is prospering. Most of the credit will go to the emperor, but this success wouldn't have been possible without loyal soldiers like Servius Felix. Servius enlisted as a legionary 8 years ago at age 18, the son of a poor farmer with few prospects. Unlike the majority of legionaries, he doesn't gamble, so he's been able to save most of his wages. He's even kept his viaticum, the 3 gold coins he received when he enlisted. If he survives until retirement, he'll receive several acres of land, and he's grown rather fond of a girl back home whom he intends to marry. But he'll have to wait until he completes his 25 years of service before that can happen, and the life of a legionary is dangerous and grueling. Today, Servius's legion, along with 3 others, has undertaken a great march of 30,000 Roman paces, the equivalent of nearly 36 kilometers. Servius's armor and weapons, including his gladius, scutum, and 2 pila, weigh over 20 kilograms. And that's not counting his backpack, or sarcina, which contains food and all the tools he needs to help build the camp: spade, saw, pickaxe, and basket. Although Servius is exhausted, he won't sleep much tonight. He's been assigned the first watch, which means looking after the baggage animals and keeping alert against a possible ambush. After he's done, he lies awake, dreading the day ahead, which will force him to recall his worst nightmare. At dawn, Servius eats breakfast with his 7 tent companions. They're like a family, all bearing scars from the battles they've fought together. Servius is from Italia, but his fellow soldiers hail from all over the empire, which stretches from Syria to Spain. So they're all far from home in the northern land of Germania. Servius's legion and 3 others with him today are under the command of Emperor Tiberius's nephew, Germanicus, named for his father's military successes against the Germanic tribes. Each legion has close to 5,000 men, divided into cohorts of about 500, further subdivided into centuries of around 80 to 100 men. Each century is commanded by a centurion. An aquilifer, or eagle bearer, marches at the head of each legion, carrying its eagle standard. The centurions march beside the legionaries, belting out orders: dex, sin, right, left, starting with the right foot as the left is considered unlucky or sinister. Despite the strict discipline, there's tension in the air. Last year, some legions in the area revolted, demanding better pay and a cut in the length of service. Only their general's charisma and negotiating skills prevented wholesale mutiny. Today is a just march, only 30 kilometers. As the marshes and forests of Germania lie beyond the empire's road system, the men must build causeways and bridges to make headway, something they've recently spent more time doing than fighting. Finally, they arrive at their destination, a place Servius knows too well. It's a clearing on the outskirts of the Teutoburg forest, where 6 years ago, during the reign of the Emperor Augustus, Germanic tribes under their chieftain Arminius ambushed and destroyed 3 legions. Proceeding along a narrow path, the legions were attacked from forest cover under torrential rain, with their escape blocked. It was one of the worst defeats the Romans ever suffered, and Augustus never lived it down. Servius was one of the few survivors. Servius still has nightmares of his comrades lying where they fell. But now the army is back to bury the dead with full military honors. As he helps in the task, he can't help wondering whether the bones he handles belonged to someone he knew. Several times he wants to weep aloud, but he pushes on with the task. The glory of the empire can go to the crows. All he craves is to retire on a small farm with his wife-to-be, if the gods should spare his life for 17 more years. If you want to learn more about the hopes, dreams, and daily...
Yep. So that was a story about this Roman soldier, I guess. And it's talked about the Germanic tribes, which I guess now roughly translates to Germany, because that was where they were in like the sort of Europe parts. You may also see some of these if you go back. There's also places like Britannia, but Britannia was taken by Rome already, with this capital Londonia, which is, you know, now Britain and London. So back then, Europe still had, Europe of course existed, and those parts have become now what's our European countries.
是的，就是在尤利安皇帝死了之后，然后就是帝国就进入了一些混乱的一个时期。这个时候呢，他们边境上的日耳曼人叫什么 ？Germanic people， 就是开始大规模的迁移到罗马，以至于有一个专有名词叫做日耳曼大迁移，就是日耳曼大迁徙，就是迁徙到这个罗马帝国来。其实罗马帝国一直有很多的日耳曼人。在那儿就零星的一些生活，只是这一次然后进来的人特别多，为什么会这样呢？因为4世纪是一个全球变冷的一个时期，东方的这个匈奴人他们生存受到挤压，然后他们就从东方就是把日耳曼人的地方侵占了日耳曼人的地方之后，日耳曼人没有办法，就只有进入罗马帝国。罗马人呢这时候正好因为常年他们都在打仗，然后也缺少士兵，就把日耳曼人吸收到了他的部队里面，然后但是他们又没有平等的看待日耳曼人，就把他们当作野蛮人，给的钱也比较少，就像刚才这个视频里说的一样，有一些部队会骚乱，要求 more money 然后 more sleeping 之类的，就是 less service 什么的，就要求这些，所以说经常会有这些事情会发生。
Yep, the Germanic tribes moved into Rome because they simply had nowhere else to go. Like, it was cold, and also there was a lot of other enemies outside. And Rome happily adopted them into their army because Rome was always like battling, waging wars, so they needed more soldiers. However, they did not treat them as one of their own, instead treated them like barbarians. And of course, that time barbarians just meant anybody that was not Roman.
对，有些历史学家说，罗马人开始这个就是衰败，就是在这个时期开始的，因为他们失去了罗马传统的这种宽容的这种心态。但是怎么样才算宽容呢？这些皇帝们其实已经他们吸收这些军队，吸收这些日耳曼人来到军队里面，给他们机会立功，甚至很多日耳曼将军是爬到了很高的位置。后来有一个皇帝也很有名，他叫狄奥多西，他最倚重的一个将军就是一个日耳曼人将军，而且他还把这个日耳曼人将军指定为他的继承他的皇位的那个下一个皇帝的这种监护人。就是说宽容究竟还要怎么样才这种宽容的程度究竟是要到什么程度呢？可能我也不确定。
Some people say that this was like the time era in which Rome started to actually fall because Rome had lost its old mindset, which was taking everybody it conquered in, like Carthage people of way back in like the beginning of the Roman Empire. So now that Rome has lost that sort of mentality, I guess that's one of the reasons why Rome fell.
但是实际上，可能确实会有存在，就是说，民间的所有氛围上头，确实可能是会对那个日耳曼人有一些歧视吧。但是我觉得这个肯定不是他们唯一的，就是造成他这个帝国衰落的原因。我觉得还有，比如说你常年的这种战争，让人民的对这个整个世道感到失望了呀。还有就是罗马经历了历次的大瘟疫，就每经历一次大瘟疫，不像我们现在就是有很多的先进的医疗手段，在罗马的时候，就大家就是一片一片的这种 pandemic 的时期，就是很多人就是一片一片的死去。我觉得对国力也是有很大的一些影响，这些都是原因。我觉得不仅仅只是简单的说罗马人不够宽容，或者是说罗马人和日耳曼人的冲突导致了他们的灭亡，我觉得都不是唯一的原因。
Rome had a lot of reasons for its fall, and we can't really exactly pinpoint what exactly led to it, but we can get many of the factors of it.
尤利安去世之后，又经过了一段时间，他打，后来是一个皇帝，就是狄奥多西，然后他重新统一了帝国，然后他统一期间呢，这个罗马也是短暂的恢复了他的光荣，但是很快又失去了。他去世之后呢，他又把帝国分为了2个部分，但是这一次和以前有很大的不同。这一次，东罗马和西罗马彻底变成了2个国家。
Yeah.
Trials.
After that, they were actually separated, and now Rome was then thoroughly defeated. They got sacked by the Visigoths, which were sort of like barbarians. But the humiliating thing is that they did get sacked, but they didn't take Rome. They just defeated them, humiliated them, waited for a few days, and then they just left. Rome was utterly humiliated for like the first time in many centuries by their enemies. They were completely defeated, and they didn't even want to take Rome. They just came here to just defeat them and left.
对，这是它分为东罗马和西罗马。东罗马更有钱一些，就给大儿子统治了；西罗马就是稍微穷一些，然后地方也小、贫瘠一些，就给小儿子统治了。就是西罗马衰落的很快，然后后来是西哥特人入侵。这个西哥特，因为时间有限就不具体讲了，但是也是很有趣的那个哥特王的一些事情。他们跑到罗马来大肆抢劫，抢了3年之后，他们就走了，也没有干嘛。对，这个事情就是这幅画就是描述他的。
Now was actually split into East and West Rome. So one of the sides was more urbanized and more wealthy, which was given to the elder son, and one side, I'm pretty sure the west side was poorer.
西部更穷一些。
West was more poor and less urbanized and given to the second son. And because of that, the west side was sacked and fell much quicker.
对，在公元476年的时候，日耳曼的这个雇佣兵的这个队长，他把这个西罗马最后这个皇帝的名字非常的有意思，他叫做罗慕鲁斯，和罗马的开国者是一个名字。然后对，逼迫他退位，然后让他到那不勒斯湾那边，就去隐居去了。后来就再也没有他的消息了，估计是就在那个地方待着了吧。然后他自己呢，他也并不想来当这个皇帝，他把西罗马的皇位又还给了东罗马。OK。
Yep, and our very last emperor, Constantine, the 11th, okay, I'm not going to say his full name, but he was our last emperor around the 14,000s, which is roughly like 6 centuries before modern day, before now. He was the last emperor. He was actually a pretty good general, except after his role, Rome didn't actually fall. Rome was just split apart beyond repair. Rome has not fallen because Rome is always there. Rome just got split into many pieces, and like they got disassembled and just never got put back again.
这个东罗马呢， 运气可能更好一些，然后因为他们地方户数也比较大，所以说，而且他们后来还有一个很不错的一个皇帝叫做查士丁尼，然后我们刚才也提到过他，然后他是他几乎恢复了这个，他把那个原来被夺去的一些很多土地都又抢回来了，包括就是罗马在内的那个就是亚平宁半岛，但是后来呢又都失去了。他去世之后，然后就是伦巴第人就入侵了意大利，然后反正就是他的那个国势吧，他后来就是再也没有恢复过，就是整个罗马帝国的这个疆域，然后东罗马就一直是以这种就是也是以这种帝国的这种形式存在下去吧，但是肯定是没有以前强大了，一直到就是15世纪的时候，奥斯曼帝国时期，然后就灭亡了。这个君士坦丁11世呢，我怎么说呢？他就是生逢末世，这次他运气不好，然后他最后，当时的这个就是土耳其奥斯曼王朝的这个土耳其苏丹就包围了这个君士坦丁堡，然后那个时候罗马的军队只有7000人，你跟大家说一下。
There were only 7,000 people in the Roman army, which is barely anything compared to before.
对，而这个时候呢，就是围着这个就是他们这个城的这个人，这个
surrounding army was
对有10万人，所以说他最后他就站在城墙上。对，当时那个苏丹说：“我愿意承认你的财产和你对就是一小片地方的一个占有，但是呢，就是你就投降。”但他有他身为皇帝的骄傲，他说我不投降，然后他听说这个奥斯曼的军队突破了这个城墙，他就脱去了他皇帝的这个衣服，然后说神啊，请你救一救那些想要逃走的人，至于我，然后想赴死的人，就跟我一起战斗下去吧。然后他就投身在这个奥斯曼军队的洪流之中。
It's like a really cool outro. But he was just unlucky. 6,000 not gonna win against 100,000. He was a really great emperor, but he was very unlucky to be the last.
所以说这样子算起来的话，就是从罗姆鲁斯建国是公元前753年，然后到现在，然后1453年，就是长达2206年的这个罗马历史就彻底的结束了。
Yeah, from Romulus founding Rome at BC 753 all the way to 1453, which is when Rome had fallen. It had, well, like around that time, but it has been 2,206 years. And Rome had, the Roman kingdom, republic, and empire have all fallen.
是的。其实罗马帝国有非常非常多的故事，非常高兴我们能在这里跟大家分享其中的一些。如果大家有兴趣的话，我们以后再详细的讲。我们这一次呢，只是希望大家对它有一个大致的一个了解，然后大家喜欢的话，还可以继续自己去读书去查资料，也可以就是期待我们以后的话也会开设相应的这个课程，然后敬请期待。那么在这个夏天到来的时候，祝大家 summer 快乐。
Okay, summer break. Before we go, technically the class is already over, but here's like I guess like a movie by about Romans. It's not very. It's like a trailer.
对。
The chicken guts speak the future, betrayal, conspiracy, and death. In other words, it's a normal day in Rome, really. I am poison.
All hail my son, Emperor Nero.
Hail me. Cheers, man.
Welcome to Britain, and you are welcome to it. Celtic queen called Boudicca's gone loco.
I want to take on the Romans.
You're not having a sword.
Dad, please.
I said no.
They just go around taking whatever they want and marching all over everything.
Guys, hold on.
Now, who says I'm not ready to be a warrior?
You can't keep a prisoner. It's hard work. You have to feed it.
That is disgusting.
You have to exercise it. Who's going to clean up after it?
I am here, you know.
My troops will smash Boudica to pieces.
Who are these guys?
Those are trees.
I knew that.
As thousands head to join Boudica's rebellion, it is nose to tail out there.
Get out there to give it CX%.
Wow. Lovely camouflage, Cedric.
That's just a bush.
Let's bounce.
You seriously think the Romans could be bested by a girl?
Bested.
Brilliant, quite brilliant.
I kind of like it here.
Beautiful civilized Rome with its brick walls and proper toilets.
Sponge?
Oh, thanks very much.
I think we should limit your scroll time.
What? Horrible Histories, the movie, Rotten Romans. Do excuse me, I just need to nip to the loo.
Yep. Okay. Right, and that is the end of Rome.
等我们暑假回来的话，我们可能会跟大家一起讲讲 Harry Potter 和那个古希腊神话的一些连接和相似之处。如果大家有兴趣的话，然后我们开学再见哦，拜拜。
拜拜。Thank you.
谢谢，拜拜 ，See you。哎，你说。